Hello and welcome to another edition of Hogan's Alley. From time to time in Hogan's Alley, what we like to do is answer a bunch of the questions that come to us through some of our viewers. And this particular segment, I'd like to hammer home a couple of them. The first one is when you are making a backswing, okay, you are you are rotating on the way back and then you're rotating on the way through. But in Hogan's chain action, there's a leader going back and a leader going through. It's not like you are making a backswing where you're hooking up all the parts until you get to the top and then you let them all go at the same time. What we want you to understand is that there is that chain action as you rotate back, and there's that chain action as you rotate through. So I want to hammer home exactly why we have that chain action and how to practice it and maintain the feeling of that chain action. Okay? That's number one. Number two is recently I had someone ask me about the hands when they're going through the hitting area, and how V.J. Singh is one of the ones that comes to mind, how when he gets down to the hitting area, his right hand comes off the club slightly as he's going through. And someone asked me, well, what about Hogan when he bows that left hand going through the hitting area? Does it come off? And I've never ever seen it come off. I've never heard it come off. So I just want to go and grab a hold of that and show you how it doesn't come off and how it shouldn't come off. And so let's get started right away. Okay? But before we do, just to let you know that I feel sorry for a lot of you around the country. In California here, we still have wonderful weather to play golf, and I hope you're not too jealous. Okay? So let's get started. Hello and welcome to another edition of Hogan's Alley. From time to time in Hogan's Alley, what we like to do is answer a bunch of the questions that come to us through some of our viewers. And this particular segment, I'd like to hammer home a couple of them. The first one is when you are making a backswing, okay, you are rotating on the way back and then you're rotating on the way through. But in Hogan's chain action, there's a leader going back and a leader going through. It's not like you are making a backswing where you're hooking up all the parts until you get to the top and then you let them all go at the same time. What we want you to understand is that there is that chain action as you rotate back, and there's that chain action as you rotate through. So I want to hammer home exactly why we have that chain action and how to practice it and maintain the feeling of that chain action. Okay? That's number one. Number two is recently I had someone ask me about the hands when they're going through the hitting area, and how V.J. Singh is one of the ones that comes to mind, how when he gets down to the hitting area, his right hand comes off the club slightly as he's going through. And someone asked me, well, what about Hogan when he bows that left hand going through the hitting area? Does it come off? And I've never ever seen it come off. I've never heard it come off. So I just want to go and grab a hold of that and show you how it doesn't come off and how it shouldn't come off. And so let's get started right away. Okay? But before we do, just to let you know that I feel sorry for a lot of you around the country. In California here, we still have wonderful weather to play golf, and I hope you're not too jealous. Okay? So let's get started. So when you are practicing your backswing, remember you should have a little club, something that you can swing in the house, in the yard, without damaging anything around you. Feeling that control, also feeling where the club face is in and throughout your swing. Now, So, getting to that question, the question was, when you are taking your backswing, does it really matter once you get to the top of the backswing if you start with the lower body or you start all together? Okay? Now, remember, the reason we are starting with the lower body and letting it lead is because something has to be first. Okay? If you start from the top, you leave out the bottom. If you start from the bottom, you include the top. But the bottom leads the top. So, when you're going through your backswing and the lower body starts to lead through the hitting area, the upper body will follow in sync if you let it, if you train it. You have to train and allow it to happen. As the lower body starts, the hips then get into it, from the knees to the hips to the shoulders, then the arms and hands follow. If, when you're practicing, if you notice that from the top of the backswing, that everything goes together, when you are in a heated situation, say if you're playing and maybe you need to hit the fairway and hit the green and make a par on the last hole for your personal best, what's going to happen is you're going to put a little pressure on yourself. You're going to put some heat on yourself. And if you're used to doing it with the whole body at the same time, the little muscles in the hands and the little muscles in the arms tend to take over. So if you're used to turning with the whole body at the same time, in pressure tense situations, your hands are going to fire. I almost guarantee you're going to have that feeling of coming over the top of it. What will happen? A number of things. You can pull it left if you're a right-hander. You will pull it, it may slice off to the right, a number of different things. And you will get to that point where when you have that heat on yourself and you will perform like that, you're going to say, what happened? Well, your swing broke down because it didn't have a leader. And to cite some examples, Phil Mickelson, when he came down to that last hole and he just needed a bogey to win, I believe a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, what happened? He hit it in the trees, and then he couldn't get out of the trees, and then he missed the green, and what happened is his swing started to break down. He is one of those top professionals that does swing with more of a full body swing on the way down. And when that happens for him, if you can cite certain times in his past where he has broken down, okay? And not to say that he's not a great player, but the pressure situation to win the U.S. Open for him is more of a pressure situation than to just go play during a tournament and win some other tournaments, because he has perfected it to the point where he can do it most of the time. But in the pressure situations, we want something that will perform for us over and over and over again, okay? And what Hogan found is that chain action, that unwinding from the bottom to the top in the downswing, that will enable you to perform over and over again. So I suggest that you make sure that you feel when you're at the top of the swing that the lower body starts, that the lower body is the initiator. How do you practice that? I suggest you get in front of a mirror and watch yourself or videotape yourself. Get to the point where you're getting to the top of the backswing. Remember, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this hitting balls. You do it before you go out on the practice tee. You have to feel that when you're at the top, that the left knee and the left hip are doing the initiating. So you get to the top, watch yourself in the mirror, and do some of the drills that are designed specifically to initiate with the lower body. Get to the top and start. Get to the top and start. Remember, get the feeling, what it feels like to use the lower body without anything up top. Because the lower body leads, if it continues to turn, What'll happen is if it continues to turn, the, the, the upper torso and the arms and hands will follow through the hitting area. But the secret is continues to turn, because you can't start with the lower body, stop, and let everything fire. And what normally happens with that is a slide. Okay? So it's a slide, stop, fire, turn, and go. You have to train yourself to continue to turn through that hitting area. Okay? So I hope that answered that question. Let's get to the next. So the next question that was posed to me was in the department of the hands, and in the main dealings with the hands, going through the hitting area, does the left hand actually come somewhat off the club as Hogan needs to bow through the hitting area? And they cited that maybe it's something to the effect that Vijay Singh, when he goes through the hitting area, his right hand comes off slightly. Now, let's take a look at the grip real quick. I want to show you a little bit about the left hand grip as it relates to being on the club. So let's take a closer look at that. In looking at the left hand grip close up, what you want to see is to make sure that the club, or I should say the grip of the club, is more in the fingers. And to do this, you have to practice putting the club more in the fingers of the hand and not in the palm of the hand. So John used to tell us that what Hogan had him do was put it more in the fingers and then just roll the hand up. As you can see, this gives you more of a secure grip. The club does not move with very little pressure. It hardly moves at all. But if you were to put it more in the palm of your hand, you can see that the club would slide back and forth. So John said, let's put it more in the fingers and then roll it in. From this point, you pull the thumb back to get more of a feeling of stability, and then you would adjust the club head. And practice this feeling, because when you have it more secure in your fingers, it allows you to relax your grip to the point where it's not a death grip. You don't have your hands on the club securely tight. So take it in the fingers, roll it in. What you'll see is it's right under the meat of the hand, meat of the palm. Pull your thumb back for stability, and what you'll have is it slightly diagonal in the hands, but below the meat part and more in the fingers. Okay? This then allows you to put your right hand on top with the V formed by the thumb and index finger going up to the left shoulder. So now we have a nice, secure left-hand grip where we roll the fingers in, pull the thumb back. The end of the grip is before the meat part of that palm, right underneath it. And the right hand is then secure on top. Now, to go further and answer the question, what I wanted to show first was this left-hand grip is very secure, okay? It's not tight, it's not clenched. What it is, it's just a way to put your hands on the club so that it will be secure from the start of the swing to the finish of the swing. Now, what I want to show you is how that bow is created. Remember, when we get to the top of the swing, whether we have used Hogan's secret, which is the cup, which creates a cup in the back of the left wrist. Whether we use that or whether we keep a straight back of the left hand does not matter. So that when we're going through the hitting area, the creation of the bow is done with the wrists, not the hands. Okay? So once we're at the top of the swing and we're coming down through the hitting area, remember the left elbow turns toward the left hip, creating an opportunity for the wrist to allow the back of the left hand to go to the ground. It allows the right hand to still stay cupped, thereby storing up energy that has been generated through the body as we're getting ready to release it through the hitting area. So what I want you to understand is that when you go through the hitting area, there's no left hand coming off the club, no feeling of the left hand coming off the club whatsoever. Because even in 5 Fundamentals, Hogan talked about the pressure of the last 3 fingers of the left hand, once you're at the top of the swing, allows you to have control over it throughout the bottom part of the swing or the hitting area. Because remember, if you do not have control at the top of the swing and you let go, then all of a sudden the club becomes very loose, and to try and regain control of that club as you're coming down through the hitting area is almost impossible. All right? So, like I said, whether you use the cup or no cup, on the way down, you allow the left arm, left elbow to fold, or I should say, not only allow, but train. Remember, you have to train that left elbow to go to the left hip, thereby allowing you to bow or have the feeling that the left back of the left hand goes to the ground, palm of the right hand goes to the ground, and it's a wiping sensation through the hitting area. Now remember, it's a wiping sensation. It's that waiter's tray that I talked about before in my book, and that you're going down through the hitting area, smashing the waiter's tray to the ground, and a wipe. All right? It's something that you have to be able to feel and check positions as you're doing it. At the top and through the hitting area on to the finish. Okay? Now, I hope I answered the question there that the left hand does not come off the club. I have never seen Hogan in any videos with his left hand come off the glove. I've never read anything where he talked about the left hand coming off the club. I have not heard anybody else talk about Hogan's left hand coming off the club to enable him to bow going through the hitting area. So please make sure that you understand that it's the wrists rotating through the hitting area, the availability for the elbows to turn toward the hips that actually helps bowing of the left wrist. Because going through the hitting area is very important. You need to know, you need to watch your club face, you need to feel your hands, arms, as it's going through the hitting area. All right? So these are just a couple of questions that have been posed to me. Feel free to send some more. Every now and then we'll get to answer them. And I can't guarantee that it'll be right away.